We'll get started. We're gonna go. So it's a little after 6:30. We gave a couple minutes for people who are running a little behind. Make a motion, open the finance committee for August 31st.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? With us is Counselor Vacan, Counselor Tomlin, Counselor Lopez, Counselor McGivern. I'm Counselor McGee. We're gonna go out of order. Suspend the rules, take item number 8 up.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This is an order from Counselor Nelson Roman that the City Council invites Scott, am I saying it lame? LeMay? I didn't want to butcher it,
It's
so
not
I
that hard.
So have I. In order to present on the cost savings to the city as well as the revenue generated over the past 3 years. So with that, Scott is here. He has a PowerPoint. He will email it to me, and then I'll get it out to Ryan to get to everyone else. So with that, we'll turn it over to you and go from there.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity, and sorry if we couldn't hear next by looking over this way. That was the only
Oh, that's all right.
wall we could get a little bit of light behind it.
Can you get a mic or something? Can you get one of the mics?
Just
Hit one with the green, the button there.
Yeah,
You can pick it up, yeah. You can carry, which I think is enough.
So now it's live.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
So you all know our company, United Material Management. We're a recycling and solid waste processing company. We employ about 40 people. Our Western Mass headquarters are here at 700 Main Street. The people that we employ, it's various positions: managers, sales associates, some accounting staff, admin, drivers, equipment operators, mechanics, welders, and now our plant that we put an addition on, and we put recycling equipment in and some technology to be able to separate construction and demolition materials that would have just kind of went out straight to a landfill, versus now we have the ability to get some resource conservation out of the materials. And I know that's not why I'm here tonight, so I will touch that very quickly and just get to the money. This is just the previous slide was an illustration of what the transfer looked like before the addition. This is the area that we added to a little bit in the front and over here. This is just an example of the type of equipment, and I know it's kind of hard to understand what's going on there, but it's a series of screens and air separators and magnets and eddy currents so that we can extract aggregates, metals, wood. So we end up getting wood, and we send that to market, and we process it a little bit further in the Central Mass market, and then a lot of it ends up going to Canada to make particle board. And so it's a good product for us. And then the aggregates, we have machines that actually, when the material's flowing on a conveyor, there'll be an air knife that hits it, and the lighter stuff will go a little further, and a lot of the rocks and aggregates will drop. And I think we have an illustration of what that looks like when the what was the picture of the rock? That's the kind of material that ends up being recycled as opposed to just going straight to a landfill. So with all that, I'll move. That's just an example of the metals. Some of the equipment during the construction, but there's the fun part. So we were asked to just go over what were some of the financial benefits over the past 3 years. So we paid $173,000 in taxes over the last 3 years. We generated $177,000 in royalties that went to the city over the past 3 years. We take construction and demolition material a certain amount under our host agreement at a cost of $0, and that added up to $50,000. We also give at least $10,000 a year that's directed by the mayor for neighborhood initiatives. And we sponsor some household hazardous waste days. And this is really what I think, the biggest major savings to the city. And I think that when we opened, there were 3,600 trips that your DPW trucks made, and the nearest facility that they could go to would be round trip an hour. So say it was only 25 minutes, and then they would, you know, whether it's weight in an incinerator or whatever it is, and then dispose of the material and get back to where they would be working. Because we're so local, we cut out a lot of truck time, and it's a pretty conservative estimate to say that it's about $125 per hour to run the type of trucks that you're running with the hydraulic systems. So the savings in terms of the transportation, just to the overall pickups that happens, is very significant. We went over that recently with Chicopee, and their cost was actually more than $125 an hour. So, you know, they recognize with their landfill closing, where is it, you know, where are they gonna go, and that the distance is pretty important. So, that's really it in a nutshell as to what I think the benefits have been over the last 3 years, financially. And I won't spend a lot of time on this, but we're obviously, we're involved in a lot of organizations, and I think, you know, we contribute to quite a few. And what's the next one? And, you know, there's some residual benefits, and I won't go into that for very long. But, you know, we do business with Pioneer Valley Railroad. Our car counts just continue to increase. And, so, you know, they employ a lot of people, and, you know, and do a decent job too. And so there's a lot of, I think, residual benefits that we provide to the other businesses and the ancillary businesses that we do business with in the community. And this is just kind of an example. You know where the transfer station is itself, and we have an office right next to it on 700 Main Street. It's the brick building that's right next to it. We acquired this lot across the street. We permitted it to be able to do maintenance or other ancillary type industrial uses, and we're still kind of trying to figure out, you know, when and how we're going to incorporate that into the business, but it's a great option. And we recently, as you all know in the council, acquired where the Automania property was. So I guess just open it to questions.
With that,
Thank
does
you.
anyone have questions? No? Peter?
Good through the chair. Scott, first of all, congratulations, and I hope the success, you know, the city is enjoying with your presence is also your success as a business owner and operator. And thank you for being a good corporate citizen. You may not know the answer to this, but you listed host neighborhood. I remember the original contract, and I understand what the host fee is about, but what does neighborhood mean?
So in our host agreement, we agreed to give $10,000 a year to a neighborhood initiative that gets, and that's directed by the mayor.
I think my question might be for the auditor and the mayor, but you don't know what neighborhood initiatives have been used
So-
with that 10,000, have you?
We've done Taste of South Holyoke. We've done the Spanish Festival, but outside of that contribution, we just do that above and beyond that. And Celebrate Holyoke. We just put $5,000 on the last, I think, 2 or 3 years to Celebrate Holyoke. And as I mentioned, we've agreed to the initiatives. We usually get asked to, you know, to discuss it a little bit, but it's not,
It's not your call, I
it's
understand.
not like, yeah.
I won't ask you any more questions. I'll just end my thoughts with boss politics, but thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for coming down and explaining to us the benefits to the city, which is, you know, as your business has grown over the years, has really done a lot for our community, especially the big thing is employing the employees that you have, which is a big plus. From that area having nobody there to having the amount of employees you have, which is really helpful for our community. You talked about that building you just recently purchased, or that lot. You have any plans for that Automania lot at this time?
So, because of the shape of that lot, it's very hard to do a lot with it, and as a result, for us, it's just ideal, you know, our plan, I think, eventually will be to get some kind of screening and use it for vehicle storage, because as you know, with our addition, we took up some of the storage that we had on the existing lot, so that gives us a little bit more, because eventually, I think over the next, you know, it may take us a couple of years before we really can get a plan together with the maintenance facility, and, you know, we're going to take up some of that land that we have across the street as well, so it's important to have some kind of vehicle storage.
Right. And the building across the street, have any plans for that as of now? The one right across the street that you just recently purchased?
The lot of land?
The building, is it the building you actually are part of right across?
Oh, so, you mean the brick building?
The brick buildings, right.
So we've owned that for a couple of years.
Oh, the one across the street? That one up there, right there?
This is, yeah, oh, that's just a lot. So
Oh, it's just a lot, so
we
you,
bought that in a private, from the K&B, and, we, as you know, we permitted it to be able to do, maintenance and, you know, whatever ancillary permitted uses there are. And, we're still kind of, we're spending a lot of money. We have to, you know, watch how we're doing that and the timing and how we do that.
right, okay. And the C&D, I think, some disposal of the 50,000 benefit to the city. Can you explain that again to us?
So there are certain increments based on the volume that we do per year, and one of the increments is 300 tons a year, and then if we go over a certain threshold, I believe it's 124,000 tons, it would kick to 500 tons per year. So we accept that material from you at no charge up to that amount.
Up to that amount, okay.
And you have it, you get it at your, you know, you get it at various sources, and, you know, it's dependent on how much you have. It's, you know, it doesn't always get fully utilized, but
Right,
it's a nice benefit.
Okay. And one more thing, and I know the city runs the Hazardous Waste Materials Day. Something, you have that once a year or more than once a year?
So we don't run it.
You don't run
We contribute, up to $7,500 an event.
Okay. So in other words, if the city does it, you help towards bringing that into disposal, paying the employees or whatever for that
We
day?
pay the whole bill for the disposal of it.
Okay, that's a big benefit too, because I know a lot of people utilize that day, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
What else?
I'll just say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update, and I like the idea that you're looking more at the recycling.
So, thanks for the comment on that. You know, the reason we even changed the name to United Material Management is, you know, pretty much across the state, that is what our plan is. Everything we do is about trying to reduce what ends up for end disposal, because end disposal is very costly right now. So, and there's really is a landfill crisis right now in Massachusetts. I mean, there's some major sites closing, but I think, you know, we have rail. At least in Holyoke, you have everything you can have. We can access with vehicles, we can access with rail, and we have a recycling component. So I think in terms of infrastructure, you know, you're in pretty decent shape and comparable to some other communities.
Thanks.
And you'll email me this presentation to get to everyone else?
We will.
All right, so with that, is there a motion?
Motion that the order is complied with?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, so the motion is that the order is complied with. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, Scott. Thank you. All right, so now we'll go right back to the top. Item 1, acceptance of the prior minutes of meetings. Make a motion to table it to allow everyone to have a chance to review those.
Second. Today, yeah.
Yeah.
Table, right?
All right, so is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item number 2, make a motion to move from the table.
Second.
All in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? This is an order that Hoyoke Media Inc. appear before the City Council to explain the use of cable fees and provide the City Council with legal documentation that authorize the creation of Hoyoke Media and a copy of the organization's corporate papers, that the Hoyoke Media also provide financial reports and audits of the finances, and so on and so forth. Is there anyone from Hoyoke Media here? Come on in, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can all come in, yeah, and take a seat. Just make sure the button's on. The light up.
Yep.
And just for the record, can you say your name and address?
Yeah, my name's Al Williams. I'm from 101 Pearl Street in Holyoke. I'm the president of the board of directors of Holyoke Media.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Jennifer Muskowski, 3 St. James Avenue, Holyoke, and I am the secretary of the board.
Welcome. That's all.
Carrie Baker, 54 Claremont Avenue, Holyoke, board member.
All right. So with that, I'll turn over to the maker of the order, and we'll go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming down. We've had this in our jacket for, I think, over a year to try to catch up with you folks and understand what is going on in the city. We have a lot of cable subscribers who feel that they're paying a very high cable surcharge. And the first thing that I would ask as a practical matter, because we are basically looking at structural things to understand, you know, what the relationship will be and around the revolving fund with the city as well, right, Mr. Chairman?
We haven't even accepted the revolving fund.
Right. So we have, I think in our jacket, an order that is talking about a revolving fund for the activities that you are interacting with the city with. And so it's a rather complicated change that has taken place. And so from a practical point of view, what the customers are coming, at least to me about, and perhaps other members of the committee, is what is going on with Channel 15 with the antiquated equipment that we have, and people cannot see our meetings, and they are highly frustrated. And the amount of suspicion as to why they can't see them increases as every month goes by that we tell them that we're working on it and it doesn't improve. So the other thing that I'm often asked about is what's going on with the public TV channel. So that has led to the question of, gee, with all the fees that are going in there, there must be a ton of money sitting there. And so the other obvious question is what's happening with it and what will be happening with it. So that's sort of the overview
Sure.
of, and I know I'm hitting many different angles with it, but any light you can shed on any or all of the above would be great.
Sure. The first point I would make is that there are no surcharges on the cable bill. You will see what's called the breakout. This is very, sorry, feedbacky. A breakout of a public access fee on your cable bill, right? So Comcast, who's the provider in Holyoke, is allowed to break that out. Really what that is it's a percentage of the revenue that Comcast generates in Holyoke. A percentage of that revenue goes to fund what is a community media center in Holyoke, per the last negotiated contract. That surcharge isn't tacked on. There's no, if you look at research across the country, there's no price increases or decreases based on what percentage of that money that the city is negotiating for. It's similar to the comparison I always make is you don't see a breakout of CEO salaries as an itemized part of your bill when you pay Comcast your bill, but they could break that out if they wanted to. So it looks that way, but it's not actually a fee. It's actually it's a compensation that the city can negotiate for in exchange for Comcast's use of public right of way. So
you're saying that it does not result in any change to the cable subscribers' bill?
yeah, what it means is that some of the money that the subscribers are giving to Comcast is required to give back in the frame of a public good. So there are some things that the city can negotiate for when it negotiates a contract with Comcast.
Okay.
And the law that allows it to do that is called the Federal Telecommunications Act. Okay, it was passed in '94, I think, the last time it was revised. And so there are parameters that the city can and cannot negotiate for. And unsurprisingly, some of the things that most consumers would like lower bills or certain channel lineups or different tiers, are not negotiable. One of the few things that is negotiable is funding a community media center with revenues that Comcast generates in a town. There are some states in the United States, and I don't want to harp on this issue too much, but there are some states, for instance, in the U.S. that have gone to what are called statewide franchises, in which power is taken away from local communities and the states negotiate those contracts. And the reasoning for that was that the cable companies would argue that it would lower costs of cable television because they were paying less out and negotiating lawyers' fees, et cetera. And all research has shown that's not true. That no one in those states is paying less money for their cable bill. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is I recognize and agree with consumers who are upset at how much cable television costs and internet costs. However, this is not affecting that. Okay. As far as what's going on, I think what happened is there was clearly there was a sea change here in terms of the relationship and the sort of governance of the organization. In prior years, Holyoke had a system where the mayor, the city solicitor, and the president of the city council were the officers in an organization. There was very little money in that contract in past years. For the last 20 years prior to this contract, the city didn't really negotiate what was any sort of substantial presence in community media. So this is the first time really Holyoke will sort of see this come to full fruition. The city negotiated a contract with Comcast, and I'm going to get some of the timing wrong, but it was a number of years ago. And the money you see that has built up since that time is due to the fact that from the time the contract was negotiated to finishing the transfer of the organization to signing an MOU with the city and to sort of working out all those governance issues was a couple of years. The process went a lot slower than certainly we wished for, and so the good news is we've recently hired an executive director. We hired the first employee for the organization. We have tentatively signed a purchase and sale agreement to purchase a building in the city, though we're still doing some studies on that building. So
It's not public information at this point?
we haven't made any press releases about it yet, but it's certainly public information. I think that we signed a purchase and sale agreement, and so we're looking at that building.
Is that the one right over here?
Yes, it is. It's One Court Plaza, right? So, and we've contracted with Kuhn Riddle as architects for the plan, and essentially we're taking the money that we've saved from inactivity over the last number of years, and we're building a community center with it. And this will be a media center that all residents in Holyoke can go and have free access to education, to economic development opportunities, to learn how to create media, to have access to tools to create media. All. Yep. And so, and by media, I also I think it's important just in terms of our own vision, when we say media, we don't just mean television. We mean internet multimedia, right? I mean, the idea of television doesn't really exist as it ever has. I mean, that's an antiquated notion. And so that could include things like application development for mobile devices, right? It could be coding and programming. So I think there's a lot of opportunities that we're looking at, and we're looking at this very broadly in really building community inside of Holyoke, in creating opportunities for people, and allowing expression for people. And that's sort of where we are. And so there is a chunk of money that's built up and has not been spent because there was no operating funding, right? There was no operation of facility, and we could not begin our work until we had that paperwork signed.
Have the 1099s been filed and everything though?
The 1099s, everything is filed up to date. This year's 990 is in process currently.
We filed an extension on the 990, and it's going to be due in November.
Right. And so, so everything is above board. We have copies of. I know that when you reference the order today, you referenced some organizational paperwork, and we can provide that. We don't have that today. Frankly, I didn't get an email about this until Tuesday, And
Well-
so, and that's, you know,
Yeah, and
just to
I
explain.
don't know your internal things, I just know
Yeah.
how long we've been trying to get somebody like you to come
Yeah.
and talk to us.
Yeah.
That's all I can speak to.
And we're totally happy to field any questions you have about the organization, and I don't know if I've touched on all of your points.
I would like to just add a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah.
more to what Al was saying. When he said that an executive director was recently hired, by recently we mean last month. And so it took a long time, first of all, to sign the MOU and then get everything on board. And then we did a nationwide search for an executive director. We're really pleased with the person that we chose, and we're very lucky that he is from Western Massachusetts. His name is Scott McPherson.
Scott
And
McPherson.
yeah, and he recently ran the Greenfield Community Television Station, so he has ample experience doing that. So he's just getting started. We've done as much as we can as a volunteer board, and now that we have an employee, he's as I said, it's only been like a month and a half, so it's really brand new.
And I'd also like to add that, you know, we're purchasing a building and renovating that building, and that will take some time to complete also. But in the meantime, immediately, Scott began the work of finding partners in the community to start doing work with the community while that is in process. So we're looking at partnering with potential organizations, and I don't want to speak to any of them, but like we're looking at places like the library, places like HCC, places like the computing center here downtown, where we can provide that resources and have activity and start generating, you know, activity in the community before that building opens its doors.
So,
I'm sorry.
I just wondered, just so I don't forget.
Yeah.
Will you have something to do, though, with Channel 15 functioning properly?
Yeah, so that's an,
Make that his number one
yeah,
thing.
yeah, and we'll, you know, thank you for the feedback.
Really.
And we would love open lines of communication between you and the full city council and Scott and ourselves. The point of our, you know, one of the functions of our organization is government transparency. And it's a big priority for us to make sure that you guys and your proceedings are available to the entire community at a quality where they, you know, they can understand them
And
and
we
they're legible.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I just wanted to say the part where, when he was saying that these services will be available for all, and you said all, I want to just emphasize, yeah, all, like every single person, anybody will be able to come in, get training on how to use equipment, sign out equipment if they want to, if they're able to. I mean, not anybody can just sign out equipment, you need to be
Well,
trained,
right,
make sure
you
you're not going to break it, all
know
that
what
kind of
you're
stuff.
doing.
But yeah, anybody can come in and become media literate. In this age of, you know, fake news and everything else, I can't think of anything that could be more powerful for a young person than to become media literate. And the life-changing, literally life-changing education that will come to young people by learning about how media works.
Or an
And-
older person, too.
Oh, yeah, and any other person, of course, all people, everyone. And so that is really what is driving us.
Okay.
I want to just ask Al, if you want to address because we're talking about Channel 15, there's some integral upgrades that need to happen for that to happen, and so that's kind of a thing that's going to happen,
Yeah.
just to give you assurances.
Right.
It's not just like one little thing, there's a number of things that have to happen, and I know that we'll be working closely with Mike Hines, who's
With
on
Mike
our
Hines, yeah.
board,
Yep.
and who runs the TV station at the high school. There's a number of things that have to happen. Rest assured, we know about that.
Right, and part of the frustration has been that we've been sitting here for 2 years, we know
Yeah.
the money's in the pot, and then it was like, why can't we get this?
Yeah.
done?
Right, because we weren't authorized to, an MOU had to be signed, so there's a lot of things that had to happen.
Yeah, okay, so it's great to hear that they're on the priority list, these things.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I do have a few questions. Can you provide me with a list of the members of the organization, a listing of the board members?
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
want to see if you have any Latinos or any lower folks. I just want to see where they are.
Yeah.
At present, the list of all the people on the board is on our website, and
What's the website?
What's that?
holyokemedia.org.
Okay,
And as far as Spanish-speaking people, Dennis Luceriaga is on our board. And that is, I think, the extent of it at present.
How many members?
At present,
There's six because one
6.
recently resigned.
Okay.
This is sort of the this is another starting an organization is pretty sloppy, but this is the sort of like the initial board. there will be an election of board officers that happens this year before the end of this calendar year. And also, in that time, so the way we've timelined the election process is we will have, there's like no members of the organization yet because we again, we're just getting started, but membership will become open to people in the community and they can vote and nominate board members to the Board of Holyoke Media. Also, after that election, we'll be approaching, there are appointed seats, and the city council will also appoint one of the seats to our board of directors, okay? So that you're aware for your own edification. There will also be appointees by the school committee.
Superintendent.
This is new news, at least to me.
The school committee will appoint someone, as will the mayor's office.
The mayor's office.
So there's 3 appointees, there will be 3 appointees, and then there will be, I have to do this right. So there'll be those 3 appointees, and then it's a 9-member board total.
It's a 9-member board.
So 5 people will be elected by the general population of the membership, which can be anyone who is in Holyoke can join. And then there will be also like an internally board appointed seat, like a skill seat. So if we need a lawyer on the board of directors, the board can like have the flexibility to try to go and find an assigned seat themselves.
So all that information I will be able to get from your website?
That is not on the website presently, but it will be because those are, it's
Can
part of
we-
our bylaws.
Can we get it?
Pardon me?
Can you send it to us?
Yeah, we can send you the bylaws of the organization. We can send you the articles of organization. We can send you, if you just give us a list of what you'd like, we would be happy to do that.
And
And-
That's all public
I wanted
documents.
to just, we were very careful in writing the bylaws to try to balance everyone's interests, by having an appointee from the city council, from the mayor's office, from the school department, and then from the members. We are very conscious of trying to create something that is truly representative of the city. It's critically important to us.
It is. And before I forget, I think it will be a good idea for the city council to meet whoever you hire, the executive director. Maybe this order should be tabled to invite them and we
Absolutely.
get some idea
And
where
he's-
we're heading.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent his regrets. He wanted to be here and he was unable because we got a late notice of you're wanting us to be here. He was unable to rearrange his schedule, but he definitely wanted to be here and he will be happy to meet with you in the future.
That will be great. Also, I would like to see how the relation will be with the school department, how that's going to work
So, yeah.
and move forward. I would like to see a plan that is going to integrate the whole community, not only the community, but the school department also.
Yeah, we have actually in the MOU we signed with the city, the school is part of that MOU process. So the MOU is actually an agreement with the city as one partner, Holyoke Media as a partner, and the schools as another partner.
So
So
we get a copy of that also?
Yeah.
We're in the dark. We don't have any of that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the schools have already as part of that MOU, what we do is we take 15% of the gross revenues that could go to fund the organization, and they are given directly to the schools. I think that's what your revolving fund is probably about, okay? In turn, the schools agreed to match that money in their own budget from the city budget, or for the school budget. They're the same thing in some certain sense. And so there's that pot of money that will be dedicated towards multimedia education within the school system formally. In addition to that, it's a big priority of ours to create opportunities, educational opportunities outside of the school curriculum day for students to come, a safe space that's a community center for people to be active in and engaged in. So,
My last question, I'm laughing because I want to understand how it's possible that you have the money without going through the city council. I haven't seen any, they change it. So can you explain that to me a little bit, or how that works?
What happened was, it used to be, as he said correctly, it was the mayor, president, and city solicitor. So when Kara took over as solicitor, her, Kevin, and the mayor agreed to then establish this committee. And they did. So they, on a separate meeting, voted for that. And those were your 3 parties.
and just like for a point of information, that money is specifically by law not intended to be municipal money. It's not tax revenue. It's not, it's not, so the oversight of it, and if you look at most communities in the country, and certainly around us in Massachusetts, the model that we are running is the model that most people are using, and it's isolated a little bit from the city, right? And there are reasons for that isolation. One, because for some people feel like the existence of community media is like, they feel that worries them a little because you don't know what someone's going to say when you give them the power to speak, right? And so it isolates the city from those kind of liabilities and responsibilities. It also prevents the city from censoring people within the community. So it serves a number of functions. It's like when you want a free media, that media has to be separated from people, like in a healthy world, from people who are sort of making those kinds of decisions. And so it's a beneficial relationship for everybody in the community at large. And
Thank you for coming down.
Yeah.
Glad to see you. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome everybody. I think the committee knows through HEDIC, I've met with this group two occasions, and what they've represented this evening is the same thing that came out in the HEDIC meeting, although the HEDIC meeting was only about the purchase and sale. The minutes reflect that purchase and sale, Councilor Bacon, and it's very not transparent, but very public information. And it's a pending purchase and sale, but good deal for HEDIC, and we hope a good deal for Holyoke Media. The questions that we had, and I think Al, I said it, and Jennifer, you were at the first meeting, were beyond the purchase and sale of what HEDIC was selling. And some of those have been answered this evening, but I'd like to follow up and take a couple of them a little bit further. I'm glad to hear the schools are still getting their percentage because that's important. They actually run Channel 15, not the media group at this moment, but maybe that can change in the future when you're up and running.
I just want it to work. I don't care who runs it.
I understand. we all do. Notice how I'm leaning into this microphone, and Carrie, don't touch your microphone because that's mine and it might fall apart on
Right.
you. Al, I agree, but I have concerns. And we talked about accountability, and I was hoping the auditor be here tonight and we could certainly initially touch some of the issues of accountability, because some communities have a lot of problem with this money, have graphed and have had some real serious problems. We recognize that, and maybe because it's poorly managed or accountability wasn't there. And even though these dollars are not intended for the municipal day-to-day uses, they do come through the municipality. And when we set up that original PEG Access group, this body voted on it. We actually used the model from Greenfield, and we set up that original corporation known as what you cited as the only members were the city solicitor, our president, and the mayor. And that evolved. We were kept in the dark, except our president told us there was changes, and that evolved into what we're hearing this evening. So the issues of accountability, we know where the money comes from. We know how much money comes from Comcast. Who's accountable for it besides your group?
Who's accountable for the money besides our group?
Who's watching the treasury?
Well, it's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So, I mean, we're required to meet all of the public record requirements that any nonprofit organization would meet. There's also an annual meeting inside of that MOU that happens between Holyoke Media and the city. And that's sort of, the intention of that is accountability. The intention is so that the city can look at our books and see where expenditures have happened, and to sort of
Have you had that annual meeting
no,
yet?
No, we have not.
Okay, so it's been, well, Jennifer, remind me, how many years since the MOU?
It's been, the MOU has only been 10 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
so we're
it's,
due for that annual meeting.
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
However, it may not happen precisely on time because our executive director only just started, but we are keenly aware that it needs to happen, and that is part of our transition plan, which we're working on as a board.
Okay. I think it's important we spell out what the annual meeting means.
Yep.
I don't think it's just the media group and the mayor with a representative from the city council. I think it's the auditor. I think there should be some auditing of the books, each year, so
Yeah.
that we have an understanding. You're going to be doing your own audit.
That's right.
imagine, as a 501c.
Yep.
So I think that's important that we share that information so that we're all on the same page. I believe, and this is just my humble layperson's opinion, that the city still has some financial responsibilities, even though it's not municipal dollars to use. We do, your creation is because of the city. The original PEG access is because the city created it and agreed to take the monies and to use them according to the Telecommunications Act. So I think we have to all be on board, the city has to be on board with what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I can say this, there's a strong desire for Holyoke Media to be working in a very healthy manner with the city. And I think that accountability is not just good for the city council to have, but it's good for us to have. I mean, we want to be above board, and we want to feel, we want everyone in the city to sort of participate in building this. And so I don't think you're going to get any resistance from us in terms of finding solutions to make sure that you feel comfortable.
Now, I think you said once in one of our meetings that, you know, you're not a temporary group because you guys have been dedicated to this for a couple of years now at least.
Yeah.
But the board will come and go. You know, the appointees will come and go.
Very
So
true.
I think the more we spell it out now for future reference, the more structure we have and the accountability will be a lot easier.
I want to just say I agree with you 100%, Joe. And one of the things that we have been very focused on as a transitional board is setting up all of the systems for the future so that there isn't a question in the future when other board members come aboard. It'll be very spelled out what we're supposed to do and when. To Al's point, the annual meeting with the city is fairly well spelled out in the MOU what's supposed to happen. And in addition, we have an annual meeting with members. There's nothing stopping anybody from joining any of those meetings. They're going to be meetings that anyone can attend. I think the one with the mayor and the superintendent of schools, I think there would have to be, probably everyone would have to give permission for other people to come. But I don't see any problem with that. That's exactly what we want to have happen. We want everything to be above board.
Dr. Zweig, give them permission now, please. Can you give them permission now? There's half of it.
Yeah.
No, but I think we've talked about this, and I've heard, you know, 2 year and a half ago when we were completely in the dark, had a lot of skepticism, but ever since I've met with you folks, I commend what you're doing, I commend the motto, and it's the concept of what your vision is, the conceptual part of it is, I think is right, what is not just good for Holyoke, but good for the community at large. And I just hope you bear with us on the accountability part so we can play our role of the money you know, it might just be coming through the city, but it still, I think, puts some responsibility on us. And that's a question I'll ask the auditor myself and hopefully get, you know, see if he's on the same board with us.
And I'll add to that point, like in terms of financially, the state, the DOR is looking at this issue right now, and they have been looking at it simply because one of the reasons is you touched on some inappropriate use of money like this has occurred in the state, in the history of the state. And so the DOR wants to do two things. One, they want to make sure that that kind of impropriety does not happen in terms of municipalities allocating those funds or figuring out a way to use those funds for an unintended purpose. And the other part, to make it easy for everyone to understand, because it's a kind of unique situation. There aren't a lot of other things that sort of run this way. And so I know that they're looking at that issue.
The other thing I just want to touch base on is probably not, it's part of this evening, but I think probably not something we can fully resolve or fully be on the same page is, but I sat on the original PEG Access group, so I was aware of groups that tried to use the monies to get their message across. One being the KKK, one being another group that, you know, wanted to be on the city, not the city website, but the, what's our scroll?
The calendar, like the
calendar,
bulletin
yeah,
board,
the whole thing like that. Are your bylaws set up to handle or to have a criteria of what is allowable and what's not?
Certainly, there's nothing illegal can go on the channels. So if it's hate speech, and hate speech is illegal, that can't go on and be broadcast. You can't have lottery information. You can't have slanderous information. There are sort of nothing illegal can happen on the channel. Okay, and there are review policies built into our operational guidelines for handling that sort of content. I will say, like, I have a good degree of experience in the field. I work in this field as well. So in my day job, what I do is I run Northampton Community Television. I live in Holyoke. I'm a homeowner in Holyoke. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've also served on the national board of the Alliance for Community Media, which is an organization whose membership is community media organizations. I've served on the regional board. I've stayed on the state board for those things. And so I will say I've almost never, it's very, 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 very rare that the KKK is sort of the classic story inside of public access television. That's the one everyone always references. And in fact, one of the reasons is there was a Supreme Court case about it, okay? And so, I have never firsthand ever seen an incident like that in my direct professional career. And I know almost no one in the country who has. So even though it's possible that there will be messages that sit with you not very well, I'd say it's also probably pretty unlikely. But we're planning for it.
The review, I think, is important, and keeping the eyes wide open. The city council chambers, we develop thick skin because we get messages that we don't want to hear a lot, but that's another topic for another evening. But thank you for answering the questions.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other, just Adam?
Do you have an office right now? Where are you located?
In the annex, Scott is currently working out of a room in the annex. You're welcome.
Peter?
Just briefly, thanks, Al, for coming down and the members of the board here, because it's as Linda said, I'm glad Linda brought this up, because for a couple of years we sort of didn't know who you were or where you were, what were you doing. And there's a lot discussed tonight that I think is really make us feel a lot more comfortable about the new group, the new team that's together for this community access television. My question is meetings, and do you let people know when your meetings are and what time they are? Is that usually after work? Are they during the day?
Our board meetings?
Your board meetings.
Our board meetings are in the evenings. At this point, we've been meeting every other Wednesday. Thursday.
Okay.
We changed it to Thursday. Sorry, we changed it to Thursday.
Okay.
And those meetings, we have and we have not posted them alternately, but we could put a schedule of the meetings on our website very easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's something I think is important. And I think down the road, as Councilor Vagan stated about the Channel 15 and about the problems we have, and of course in the public, many of us with the microphones, the television, sometimes the television isn't on.
Yeah.
People can't hear our public meetings. I think that's a key, and I'm glad you said that we'll have that contact with the city council, not only for the financial aspects of it, but also of, what needs to be done, through government channels, the government access channel, I think, so the public can hear what we're saying clearly, and, they don't miss out on any of our committee meetings or public meetings, which are, something that we have to have. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just have a couple points to make in closing, and one is sort of an echoing of Counselor McGivern, and that I hope when you're considering meeting with the city, you consider the city, the mayor, and the city council, as well as the school superintendent, because we all play our various roles in that regard. But I think it sounds like we're pretty much on the same page with that. And then I'm going to guess, because I've dealt with a number of bylaws, that your bylaws call for a certified audit of the financials. If they don't, I hope they will in the future. Because
Yes.
I think particularly to start out, you want to make sure you have the full audit.
Yeah, it's an audit by a CPA.
Thank you. And thanks a lot for coming down. This has been very helpful. I know Counselor McGivern had shared, a little bit of thumbnail, but it's kind of better to hear it from the people who are actually doing it. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for inviting us.
Just one
Thank you.
last question before we make a motion here. Who currently is your accountant
Well, the person who's doing, it's the same
David
gentleman.
Morton.
Yeah, yeah.
Dave Morton?
Yeah.
He had done all of the filings for this when
Yeah.
the city was running the PEG access, and so he's just continued because he had all the background. So we've engaged him as well.
All right, so with that, I know you said you guys want to make a motion to table it with a request for info, or what?
No, I think because we have information coming, we could just table it, and when we
Up
get
to you
the
guys.
information, then it'll be complied with.
All right, so I wrote down a motion to table a request to get documents sent in and invite in the new executive director, Scott McPherson, right?
Pearson.
Am I saying that right?
Fearson, McPherson.
He says Ferson,
Oh.
but it looks like Fearson. I think, but he says Macpherson. That's how he says
How
it.
he says it is his name.
Yeah, exactly. I want to acknowledge how he wants to be called. I will call him what he wants.
Person.
Exactly.
So the documents requested, from what I heard, and I'll add on or take off, bylaws, MOU, articles of organization, a list of current expenditures. I have that next, board members, and then the election of new board members and the information on when that election will be held. Operation guidelines, am I missing anything?
And has the 15% already been flowing over each year?
Yes.
Yeah, we're a couple of payments into that, yeah.
Yep.
Am I missing anything, or no?
I
Happy
think
with
you
you?
got it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you have anything on paper with the school department. I would like to see if you have like a plan or what is the, I mean, maybe we can ask the secretary. I just want to make sure that that's critical, I think, in my opinion.
It's spelled out pretty clearly in the MOU, and then in terms of like a bigger plan, I think that's still in the works. You know, Scott McPherson, the new ED, is working pretty closely with Mike Hines, who works in the high school, and they're working on stuff together, but I'm not sure a formalized plan has been made yet, so I think at this point, we might have to ask you to be okay with just the MOU.
It's also, I think the school, and Dr. Zoe can speak to this better than I can, but I think the school, one of the things they wanted was flexibility with those dollars, and so the plan we arrived at is pretty hands-off in terms of our direction of how they're used. But there's also a desire expressed inside of that document for us to work with the schools to have regular conversations about plans that we could see emerging beyond that. So and part of our annual report is also the school reporting on their activities with those dollars as well. That's their obligation inside of that agreement.
So that's the motion,
Thank you very
that's,
much for coming down.
that's the
Nice to meet you all.
documentation.
Second that.
Or anything else? No? No? Seconded?
Second.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? So it's tabled. Thank you very much.
Will you send us a list of those?
Yeah,
that
I'll
list?
have
Great.
Ryan Allen email.
We have the contact.
Cool.
He has your contact, I'm
Yeah, he
assuming.
does.
He got you, yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 3,
Take up item number 3 at the
all in
table.
favor, all
Aye.
opposed, or that the city council approve an agreement to change the school department food service management from 3 years to a 5-year term. Well, Anthony's here, the
Anthony, okay.
superintendent's here, so. Anthony, come on in. Yeah, this was, we tried to take it up at a full city council meeting, but it has to go to committee for review and then ultimate. So with that, Anthony, I know you sent an email the other night with regards to the contract, kind of lengthy. So if you want to talk about it and why the need for 5 years instead of 3, I know it's a cost savings, but you can explain it to everyone else.
Sure. So as you just mentioned, I sent a copy of the draft of the contract that hasn't been executed yet. But I do want to clarify that it's a 1-year contract with an option to renew for 4 years. So every year, the contract has to be renewed. For food service companies in particular, and the USDA actually approved DESI to execute 5-year contracts with food service. But for us, one of the most important things that it did was it brought us a lot of competition during the RFP process. We got 4 vendors to actually bid on the RFP, and if we advertised it as a 3-year contract, we probably would have had 1 or 2. So we really wanted to promote competition. We've had the same vendor for the last 6 years. It was clear to me that the quality of our program could have improved, and it was the type of contract that we had. So the contract that you guys have changes it from a fixed price contract to a cost of operations, which allows us a lot of flexibility, and it allows us the ability to invest more into the food service program. With being able to amortize costs over 5 years, you get a lot better competitive pricing. The company that won the bid, Sodexo, has agreed to invest $175,000 over the next 5 years in capital improvements to our kitchen equipment or cafeteria tables. So we're really excited with the way the RFP went. We're really excited with the vendor that we have selected, and we're hoping that the council approves a 5-year term.
Who's the current vendor?
Sodexo.
Who's the new vendor?
Sodexo.
But more bang for the buck, right?
But,
You said it's the same vendor for the last 6 years, and it's the same
same
vendor.
management.
Yeah,
So same management team for the last 6 years. What they did was, as part of the new contract, is they completely changed the management team. We have, hands down, one of the best people in the country for food service, and we didn't have that before. He happened to work for the same company, but we didn't have him as our district manager. But yes, it is the same company, but the contract is completely different. There's 2 types of contract. One of them is fixed price, and the other one is cost of operations. With a fixed price contract, the goal is to save money and get out of the hole. They did a really good job getting us out of the hole, because when they did take over, with the food service account was in the red. But now the food service account is pretty healthy, and the next 5 years we want to focus on quality, improving the quality of the program. They've agreed to put salad bars in every single one of our schools. So in addition to the reimbursable meal, all of our kids will have access to a salad in addition to the reimbursable meals. They're going to be doing fresh gardens in some of our schools, and working with the community, working with the students and the staff at the schools to take care of those gardens. There's a lot of exciting things happening. They're going to roll out breakfast in the classroom to our high schools. They were one of the first management teams to do it. Actually, they were the first to do it in the Commonwealth at a high school. The management team that is coming to Holyoke rolled out breakfast in the classroom in Springfield at Central High School with over 2,000 students.
Questions? Linda? Peter?
Thanks for coming down. You went through some of this explanation during the budget hearings, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
But we couldn't act on it as the package, if I remember.
Yep.
So I hear you on the quality issues around fixed price.
Mm-hmm.
On the other side, when it's cost-based, the concern becomes how high the costs will go. Is there any control relative to that? I mean, I like the quality issues you're talking about, but do you have the ability to control the costs?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. So this contract, the way food service works, especially in a CEP community, the food service account makes money. So there's a guarantee in this contract that annually they have to return $550,000 to the food service fund. So we hope to be able to return more, but the more we return, the more we can invest into the program. We want to replace cafeteria tables. We want to do a lot with that money. You have to use it the money has to go back into the food service program. But to answer your question, yes, we're protected. At a minimum, we're going to return $550,000 to the fund. The old contract that we had, that number, that guarantee was a lot lower. It was $400,000.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I am warm to this, so my questions are, out of negative perception of it. And I'm familiar with Sodexo in another setting, so, thank you.
Peter?
Thank you, Anthony, for coming down. You first stopped down, I'm trying to figure out the 3 to 5 year. Now, is it 1 year, and then next year you see if it's another year you can continue with them, or you don't have to?
I could, at any point during the contract term, I could cancel the contract within 60 days.
Okay.
Yes.
So, the same company, but it's a better option as far as quality and increasing investment in the school's cafeteria, equipment,
Absolutely.
tables and everything.
And a new management team. One of the things they did is they brought in a dietitian that's going to work with our school nurses, going to work with menu development, going to work with some of our athletes. We didn't have that before.
Okay. And can you touch a little bit on the breakfast in the classroom? Is that just high schools? I mean, they actually bring it right into their class?
Yeah, we actually have that in all of our schools except for the 2 high schools. So the bell rings, kids go to their seats, and they get a fresh breakfast in the morning.
In each class?
In every single classroom, every student,
If they want it.
if they're there, if they want it, yes.
Okay.
So we don't have that set up at the high school yet, but this management company is going to roll it out for us. They're going to help roll it out for us at both Dean and Holyoke High over the next year. So right now at the high school, they have a traditional breakfast where you come to school early and then you go to the cafeteria and get breakfast. With that, there's less participation. Sometimes kids don't come to school early, they miss out on a breakfast. With breakfast in the classroom, the participation goes way up because kids are already there. If they're not late, they're getting a meal. And as soon as the bell rings, they're taking attendance and they're eating a meal.
Right. And the reason for this, like the option though, each year in the 5 year is to keep the company more or less aware of, if they do well, they're going to continue. Is that, the reason for the council having to increase it to 5 years, is that something that has to come through us?
Yeah.
Anything that's over 3 years
Over
has
3?
to go to the city council, has to be approved.
Okay. And each year, like I said, you look at each year and,
Yeah, every year we have to renew the contract with them. So at any point, we can pull out and put the bid back out on the street.
okay. And you said this year was better because you had more, the RFP had more people apply?
Yes, the
contract.
RFP was a much more competitive process because when companies want to invest in a community, they can invest over, or they can amortize their expenses over a longer period of time if you do 5 years. And they can offer more competitive pricing. I mean, they're willing to lose money for the first 3 years if they can make money in the next 2. But when you do 3 years, it's like a year and a half in, you're already starting to plan to go out to bid again, and it's just a much better process, especially for this type of contract.
Okay. Thank you.
Joe, and then Dale?
I think the 5 years makes sense, Anthony, and your presentation makes sense in terms of the cost-saving efforts and all that. I mean, it becomes a win-win for the schools, for the city, and for the provider, for the food service provider themselves. Not that it has anything to do with the vote tonight. I'll reserve comment on breakfast in the classroom. But Councilor Leahy did want me to ask you one question. Will they still have Taco Tuesdays?
I don't know if they're healthy. Maybe if there's wheat in the taco.
Dale, and then
Anthony, so throughout the year, who is going to do an evaluation? Any complaints, any issues like that? They come to you? How's that work?
They would come to me. I'm going to be meeting with the management company on a at least bi-weekly basis, but the operations manager that they've appointed is going to be on site every day for Holyoke. We're not going to be sharing them with another community. And then a lot of their team is actually in Springfield. I mean, the district manager that we had last year, I've probably seen him 3 times, or 3 or 4 times the entire time that I've been here. This new the new management team that I've had, I've seen the guy at least 10 times in the last 3 weeks. Like, he's here, he's committed to Holyoke. I'd love for you guys to meet him at one point. One of the things that he's really committed to is annually providing an update to the city council on what's going on with the food service program, go over some numbers, what we got going on in the future.
Well, you should do an invite to the city council and do a test with the food and see
Yeah.
how that goes.
Oh, he'd be happy to do that.
Linda?
I'll just make my editorial comment that the other counselor chose to withhold. And I just hope, I think it's great that breakfast is offered if the students want it and need it, but I hope the time isn't cutting into educational classroom time. Thank you.
Any other questions? Motion
Second.
is to approve the extended contract of 5 years. Was seconded. All is in favor?
Aye.
All is opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, item number 4, make a motion to move from the table. All is in favor, all is opposed. Applications for taxi cabs in the city of Holyoke. Come on in.
Yeah. Just turn it up to like 75.
Hello, how are you, sir? We've been looking for you. Where you been? We have I have 2 different packages for taxi cabs. How many are you looking for? 6 total? All right, so hold on. So, make sure we have it all so we don't sit up on you. That would be the 6th one. All right, so we have all 6. And for the taxis, you've taken them down to the police department for inspection and everything?
Yes, that was March 21st.
March 21st?
Almost September.
And all of them passed?
Yes.
Okay. And how many total, I know we're doing 6 here, but how many total do you have currently? Is it only 6?
For Holyoke,
Yeah.
6 of them, yes.
6 others?
No, just 6.
Just 6? Okay. All right, any questions for him? I mean, it's standard, but it's renewals. We've been trying to get you in here to
Yes.
get this done. Were you not getting notifications, or were you not?
I didn't receive anything. No.
Do we have your right number?
As far as I know, yes, it's on the applications and
Yeah.
everything.
Okay. All right, well, you're not a stranger to us, and you
Yep.
do comply with everything we ask, unless anyone has a question for him? No?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is to approve all 6 applications for the taxis. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
The best.
Item number 5, make a motion to move from the table.
So moved.
All
Second.
in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? We're at the DPW, city council meeting, it's, the annex building. All I needed was just a report. Do we have that report? When are we gonna get that report?
Lori?
This was on 2/21/17, and I asked it for in 2 weeks. We've tabled it 3 times now.
Yeah, is it with the, so it's with the mayor?
It was before my time. I can track it down and forward it.
So you can get it?
I'll do my best.
How much time do you need?
That's the finance committee.
We'll have the next one in 2 weeks. Just kidding. I'm not- I feel like the money for 2 weeks. All right, so we'll,
30 days.
Well, if you get a
All right.
report, then you're happy, right?
right, that's all I asked for.
We
on
don't
this
need
one's
a
report. No.
person.
Did Rory, you said Rory has it?
But he's not responsible for this, so
No.
maybe
No.
by the time we start it back.
All right, so
Table?
I'll make a motion to table it for 30 days. All right.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Make a motion to move item number 6 from the table. All in
Second.
favor? All opposed? Or that the mayor designate inform the city council of the cost of renting the city hall auditorium. Anyone have that one?
Nobody here.
I talked with Nilka today. She said that she forwarded the contract. Fine, I believe.
So he has a copy of
There's-
contracts?
Copy of the contract. People have to sign it.
Come on in. We'll at least get it on the microphone.
So I talked with Nilka this afternoon, and she said that she had forwarded the contract that people have to sign with the city in order to use the space upstairs to Ryan.
Do we know how many times we've rented it out over the last couple of years, I guess? Oh, Sandy, wanna come on up? Well, we're gonna piece this together for Dan. We're gonna get this info.
We'll get it done.
I love this thing. The treasurer's office has probably received maybe 4, 5 receipts in the past year and a half.
Really?
The average is ranges from 150 to 400.
Do you have any idea what the pitter patter of feet are that we hear up there at night when we're in meetings?
No, I don't know. That could be some type of community thing. I don't think it's a rental.
Oh.
The receipts that I've gotten across my desk have been a wedding reception
Oh,
and
okay. So events.
events, yeah, recitals. And a couple of times they've had some Spanish
Yeah.
musician, some musician that had come. But other than that, it hasn't been rent out that
So
often.
it's few.
Yeah, it's few and far between.
And they have an application that they have to fill out, and
Yeah, in the mayor's office, Nilka's in charge of everything for that. And then she makes sure that the custodian, which is usually Jay, is present to oversee.
is there a requirement for police to be on site for events, or no?
And do the people pay for the custodian when they have an event?
It's included in the rent, yeah. It's charged to hall rental.
Okay, we'll track down that application
Thank
from
you.
Ryan. You said about 4 or 5 this year.
I'm going on right now up there. Here.
It's an after-school program.
Oh, is it?
All right, so
Table it?
does the cost
I know.
cover all the renting? Well, looking through the order, does the cost associated with the auditorium cover the renting of the auditorium? DPW, other city employees to set up and break down the auditorium. So she said, and the cost is paying for Jay. The police are not required to be here, so there's no cost for that. So
Guess we
one
can
fifty to
set up.
450 would cover the setup, the breakdown, and the use of the building, so, yep.
So.
Yeah, is there like a liability waiver of liability? Well, we'll find out with that
Seen it,
contract, so
So
we'll
we'll
wait.
have to table it.
All right, so we'll make a motion to table it until we get that contract from Ryan or from Milka. We'll follow up with her.
Second.
So motion is to table. It was seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? No, I don't want to take care of it. No, just kidding. All right, where are we now? So 7 is the tow. Who's here for the all tows completed? No one? Okay, so we'll skip over it. So the police would be item number 9, 10, those are the same. And then you would have the grant. You guys have a grant on this one? No? So just 9 and 10. Okay.
Motion to take up as a package?
Motion to suspend the rules to take up items number 9 and 10 together. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Make a motion to remove from the table item number 10 as a package. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so here, Councilor Jardine filed an order that the Hoyok Police Chief or Law Department reports to City Council. Department is in full compliance with 8 USC 1373. If not, how, so, and why? Then Councilor Lisi, order that the chief report on 1, the impact of the loss of federal grant related to smart policing, if complying with 8 USC 1373, if the city receives federal funds to compensate for extra staffing with regards, so it's the same thing. So with that, we'll turn it over to the police department.
Okay, well, the police department is in full compliance with that federal statute, so it kind of takes care of 10 all in one whack. We are fully in compliance. There was no policies enacted that were put in place that would limit our communications with the Department of Homeland Security.
So when you say, because we got to report back to the group, when you say we're in full compliance, what does that entail?
Well, what that 8 USC 1373, well, that basically says that no agency it prohibits agencies from enacting policies that would limit communications between the Department of Homeland Security and the agencies. We just haven't enacted anything, and we don't plan to. We don't have a large immigrant community presence, and we're not actively seeking out immigration status or anything like that, and we don't plan to, so that's pretty much it.
Okay, and you're saying, so that takes care of number 10 or number 9?
That takes care, well, 10 brings up a lot of questions about, once we're in compliant with number 9, which we are, number 10 is if we aren't, it basically addresses, well, if you're not in compliant, are we at risk of losing federal grant money?
Well, you're in
And we are
compliance,
not.
so,
We're not at any risk of losing any of our JAG grants or anything like that because we're in compliance with that statute.
Well, I'll make a motion that the orders are complied with.
Can I just check it? I forgot to apologize. The chief could not be here today. He had a death in the family, and so he
Sorry
asked
to
me to
hear.
come in. So I apologize on his behalf for not being able to make it tonight.
We accept it.
Joe?
I don't want to speak for Kevin, but if I remember correctly, he filed these orders after the mayor announced we were a sanctuary city. Is there any directive from the mayor to the police department about being a sanctuary city?
Yes, in 2014, there was, well, not the term sanctuary city, but there was a directive, but that does not affect this particular federal statute. That basically just is like an agreement to let the citizens know symbolically that we're not actively, as a police department, going to go out and detain people based solely on their immigration status, and we have no intention of doing that. This particular statute just talks about limiting communications with the
That you will
Department of Home.
communicate and cooperate with the federal government.
Right.
Right.
Right, and we don't have such a thing. We don't actively go out. We don't, during the course of normal business, even when stopping and detaining people for criminal violations, we don't ask them their immigration status or anything. This is really big in other communities, but as far as us here in Holyoke, we don't deal with this pretty much at all. So it's just, I know it's a big thing across the country, but in the city of Holyoke, we just don't.
But if they were criminal and they were illegal, you would coordinate and collaborate and cooperate with the
Yeah,
federal.
absolutely. We enforce
authorities, right?
criminal laws, absolutely. This makes there's
Right.
no difference.
Well, if you enforce a criminal law, there's a very good chance that the trial court will enforce the other part of it.
Right, if it comes up, it would be dealt with at the courts. We just don't see it here.
Thank you.
So the motion was,
Comply with, I'll second that.
so I wrote that down, it was seconded. I was trying to catch up to you guys. All right, so the motion is ordered, it was comply with, seconded, all is in favor?
Aye.
All is opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you
right,
very
so I
much.
Bless you. All right, so go back to 7, which was, make a motion to move for, what? We're gonna jump right into this. This one is, since there's no one here, it'll just be,
We're just gonna,
yeah. So here, item number 7, make a motion to move for a table.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That the city charge an administration fee on all tows completed by tow companies contracted with the city. The fee would be collected by the tow company and paid to the city monthly. The fee would be in line with the city surrounding Holyoke. I mean, what fee and,
Yeah.
come on up to the mic, Sandy. If you want, just sit in here and it makes it easier. I guess should there be a separate order on the amount?
does it become an ordinance?
And then that would be my second question, if it's gonna be an ordinance. City charge administration fee on I mean,
Like a separate.
Okay, I know that the police department has motor vehicle towing fee, and she usually brings it in once a month. Katie McCoy keeps track of it. I'm gonna say it's like a $20 or $30 charge that I believe is probably established by the police department or some type of city ordinance. We probably could have asked the police department.
I think we need the maker here
yeah.
to say what
What
he
do you
wants to do if we're already doing that.
Right.
But right now, we have a $20, $30 charge by the police for when
Correct.
they do a.
Yeah, she brings it in like once a month, and it, her departmental says, motor vehicle tows. And it's usually larger in the winter as opposed to, because of winter parking.
All right, so we have that, so that's something to go on. What we do is make a motion to table it, and I can follow up with Jimmy to find out exactly what he's looking for.
Yep.
Is that, okay.
And unless he wants to charge additional fees, I don't know.
But
He,
but that's-
he might, or, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe he
Or
did,
maybe it's the towing companies he wants them to, we'll figure it out instead of guessing. All right, so motion is to table to follow up with Counselor Lay here. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And then, yeah, so we'll jump into number 11, 12, 13. We'll go down that order.
package?
No, we'll,
Okay.
one at a time, I think.
Okay.
So make a motion to remove from the table item number 11.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Order that the sum of $550,000 be appropriated to pay the cost of city playground projects, including payments of costs, and then so on and so forth. She's got spreadsheets. The other two grants, just so the public knows, items 12 and 13, order that the sum of, and these haven't been removed, I'm just giving the information. 4.5 million to pay for city infrastructure, which is
We'll share it.
sidewalks, traffic signals, and so on.
One more.
And then item 13 is 350 for the stained glass windows upstairs. So right now, the only thing on the table is the 550,000 to pay for costs of city playground projects. With that, I turn it over to both of you, or Mike, or whoever wants to go first.
Can I just make, the city council did approve the playgrounds.
The
of
550?
1.5.
That was the tennis courts.
That's tennis courts.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is
tennis
different,
courts.
yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make that note. All right. The rest is still negotiable.
Yep, so this one, we did approve the 3 tennis courts for, what was it, 1.5?
Correct.
Yes.
That was at the last meeting.
Right.
This one now is 550 for city playground projects, which would encompass what? What parks?
So there's a number of parks, Mayor Field, which is in Ward 3, would get a playground improvements with an estimated cost of $75,000. Kenny Field, which is in Ward 7, that's off Bemis, would have playground improvements for $75,000. Rowan Park would get a spray pad for $75,000. Valley Arena Park is abatement and improvements for $100,000. Springdale Park would have lighting improvements for $100,000. And then citywide park benches for $50,000, wayfinding signs for $50,000, and solar trash compactors for $25,000, for a total of $550,000. The Valley Arena Park, with the abatement and improvements, an estimated cost of $100,000. The city submitted a park grant application for Valley Arena with a total project cost of around $400,000. The city's portion of that would be around $94,000, so this money would cover the city's portion.
The match?
The match, if we were to be awarded the grant. It's been submitted, but we haven't heard back yet.
So are all these projects limited to 2 or 3 wards?
Mayor, no. Because Rowan's in 6. Valley Arena is in 2. Springdale is in 2. So we have 2, 3, 5, and 6, and then citywide park benches.
Which one's in 5?
Where's 5, yeah?
Where's 5?
5?
I never see anything for Ward 5.
No, I'm sorry.
Anytime,
Not 5, 7, Ward 7.
anywhere. I'm waiting for one.
Kenny Field is Ward 7.
Correct. So the equipment, what does 75,000 get us, was the question?
It's playground equipment, like Susie Park. We're going to redo Susie Park in the next few weeks. And for $70,000, we were able to get one large multi-platformed play structure with different types of ladders and slides coming off of the structure. There's a rope type play equipment. It's called a bird's nest. It pretty much has a bunch of ropes that go around it up to the top, a swing set, and some benches. So we're at Mayor Field and Kenny Field right now, there's older playground equipment that would be getting replaced with new.
I have a question to piggyback on Diestados. I know this is for certain parks in the area. I've been filing orders consistently as to who's reviewing all the parks and the apparatus in there to make sure they're fixed and maintained. I sent it to DPW. I sent it to Park and Rec.
Right.
requesting, in essence, a report on every park. Because I go to these parks and check them because whether I'm doing coaching or I'm taking the kids, you can go to Rowan Park and the rope ladder going up is broken. It's been broken all summer. The wood chips over in Kennedy Field, they've been gone for probably 2 years. There's more weeds in there than there is wood chips for when a kid falls. The playscape at Ian White School is missing handles and everything else. There's the graffiti on it saying certain things I won't report here. My favorite one is Kennedy Field, where they have a piece of plywood,
Right.
where it's supposed to be a hard plastic. That plywood's been there for about 3 years now. At some point, there's a hole in the plywood. The plywood's just going to break. That's a very tall play structure for bigger kids, but little kids go on it. When it breaks and a child falls, and there's no wood chips or anything else, and it's that high, you know, how long are we going to keep going to do this? They're not being reviewed. There's no status update on them. I can tell you where everything's broken throughout every park, which is sad because it's been 2.5 years now. They're not getting fixed. Here we're saying $550 for Merrifield, Springdale, Valley Arena, so on and so forth, but that's not all the parks. There's still going to be broken apparatus throughout the city. Why aren't we just maintaining what we have instead of $75,000 for a whole brand new structure? I mean, when are we going to start doing it? When's the maintaining going to happen?
Oh, it's a good question. And with limited budgets and we have to do work throughout the year, I know we do need to maintain our existing infrastructure, our existing inventory of play structures. But there is a cost associated with that, and we haven't been doing a good job. These structures are used, they get worn down. Kennedy Park it's a heavily vandalized park, and what I've been told is every time that parks would go and replace something, it would get damaged again. That's why the piece of plywood is on that play structure, because the rope ladder that would go up was constantly being vandalized by people.
So,
Eliminate
what-
it
well,
as a
just to
thing?
touch on that, go just to Rowan Park, the rope ladder. It was never fixed. I can guarantee you that, because I was there for baseball, now soccer, and everything else. It was never fixed. So to hear the argument, well, we maintained it. No, you have to fix it first to maintain it. It's broken in the same spot the entire summer. Maintain it means you fixed it, and they broke it 2 days later, or they broke it something else. It was never fixed. The same graffiti in the certain locations is still there. Has been taken off. That's not maintained. That's just nothing done. The wood chips that I requested 2 years ago, finally a batch was dumped in at Ian White. Just dumped there, and then you could see the tracks roll over it. Just dumping something and spreading it, you know where I want to go with that saying, is not maintaining. What the problem is they're getting so far gone that we now need a $550,000 bond to take care of what we should have been maintaining.
I agree with you, and we could probably do a much better job. We could do a better job maintaining the equipment.
Yes, Otto?
I have talked with Terry Shepard about the order that you filed. She is working on a list of all of the playgrounds and the equipment at each of the playgrounds. She's doing that as part of the open space plan.
Shouldn't that
As
have
well
already
as-
been done? It was kind of a setup in a sense. I filed an order that should have been there the next day. They're actually now doing it.
I spoke with her last week, and she was working on it.
If I may,
Yeah.
I think that we really need a plan in order, I mean, I want to support this, without having a plan that we're going to maintain some of this park. But I have some questions for you. Valley Arena is contaminated, are we cleaning the whole area there, Valley Arena, to put some of this new equipment?
That would be the plan.
That will be
yes.
part.
Yeah.
So at least that will be good. Springdale, can you help me out understand lining? Are you putting light in the park? Or how, that's what that is?
Yes.
I think that we need a neighborhood meeting, just to make sure that they know that's gonna be a completely different park. And the neighbors, in my opinion, not gonna be happy. Because, I mean, that's gonna be, the light will be on until 10, so that's taking over the neighborhood. Yes, yeah, so tonight I will not support this. I need to do more homework, so I'm sorry.
We all need more information.
I'm gonna leave it at that. I mean, the parks are, in my view, very poorly maintained at this point in time. And I'm talking about the play structures. For me, just throwing more money at something that's not really maintaining or addressing all the parks is not the way to do it. So as of right now, I will not be voting for this. Joe?
Not to repeat what's been said, I more or less agree with it and understand. I think we all understand, like, your budget constraints are the big issue here. I don't think, Sandy, you can help me out or correct me or if I'm wrong, but I don't think for this type of equipment, bonding is the most cost-efficient way. Some of this equipment's, I think you even got a note here, Sandy, or someone's got a note, life expectancy is like 10 years and the bond is 15. You know, we'll be paying for someone will be paying for a bond for 5 years and the equipment might be gone if it lasts the vandalism part. You know, I think we got to find ways to put more solid equipment in areas that are vandalized and ways to pay for it where it's not costing additional monies for borrowing.
I know did they meet at the CPC? They met, right?
Once.
They met once. Have you reached out to them to see if, I don't even know what pool money they got, but are they gonna donate any money towards parks or anything? Because that's it's 1/3, right? 1/3 has to go to it, whatever that
Open
number is.
space.
Historical or parks or?
No, to answer your question, no, I haven't talked with them specifically about parks.
I mean, I want the parks fixed as soon as possible. They might have some money, which then changes this number, maybe. That's another issue that I have. So with that, you have a question, Linda?
Well, I was just going to offer a motion to table pending receipt of the report from Terry Shepard on all of the parks.
Okay.
So that, and also pending some recommendations as to what we should replace the equipment that's in the parks that's getting vandalized with, instead of doing the same thing again and thinking we'll have a different result, you know, 'cause
Or, I mean, I know it worked at Community Field, and I'm not saying to put it in all the parks, but I know they have cameras up at Community Field, and there was 2 incidents where there was vandalism, and they caught the kid. It was actually, I think it was the same kid twice from what was reported to me. Since then, I've heard nothing. So I'm not sure if that's a deterrent or if there's no way of doing it. I'm just throwing that out there. That's one of the reports I got back. If this is a high area where one of the parks is getting just beat up really bad, maybe more police presence during the night, or maybe the cameras work, I don't know. But there's got to be something offered up to address the problem other than a piece of plywood that's honestly been there for 3 years. And there's a hole in it. So it's just a matter of time. If a kid does get hurt there, we've been on notice how long now? I mean,
and maybe we have to remove the piece of equipment, whatever it is. I mean, I don't know.
My suggestion will be, Mike, the report should be very clear, specific, when this type of equipment was installed, if you know when it was vandalized, and what action are we taking. Something very specific. That way we will know, I mean, are we gonna spend $75,000 for a year or for 10?
Right.
It will help us a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay, so it's,
But that's really Terry's department.
so motion is to table, what, go ahead.
I'd say it's also DPW,
Yeah.
as well as Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Since we do.
But I mean, as
we-
far as
we get the-
knowing what's in the parks and,
Yeah, but DPW has the labor,
Right.
and we also have the budgets for maintenance
okay.
of parks.
So motion is to table with a request for the updated report and a maintenance plan for the parks, as well as the status issue about the lights in that new park. So motion to table with those requests. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Actually, was it seconded first? Is there a second to that?
Oh,
motion?
second,
All right.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next one is item 12, a request for $4,500,000 to pay for traffic signals, crack sealing, paving, sidewalks, and so on. This was tabled on 6/10, so we're bringing it back up. Make a motion to move from the table.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Weren't we working on a new list of traffic signals and new bonds and offerings?
We are,
Okay.
and we're still working on that. One of the things I'd like to do is look at all of the signals in the city. We had a meeting with Joe O'Connor, John Chagru in engineering, Sebastian Labonte, and myself to go over what it is for the signals. And, you know, in the past, we've talked about the top 10 signals. We talked about a $3 million figure to fix those top 10, but that figure was kind of based off of generic assumptions, where each traffic signal would cost about $300,000. And what I'd like to do is, starting with those top 10, look at what exactly would be needed at each one of those intersections, because they're not cookie cutter intersections. Like the Hamden and Pleasant Street intersection is a lot simpler than a Northampton and Cherry Street intersection.
And Dwight?
Or north, yeah, where you have more turning movements, and so the cost would be different. I also want to look at conduit, electrical conduit, would that need to be replaced?
On
Because
Dwight, they said they did. Dwight, Northampton.
Right.
I spoke with Joe on that issue because I filed 5 orders to have these signals fixed. Because crossing that intersection, you have people taking the left turn, you have them coming off the highway. We've had several parents call with pushing strollers that it's been very dangerous because they don't work. I was informed that they'll never work until we replace it, and one of the reasons was the wiring under the street, in the sense of it's bad. And you could put in a new signal unit, but it'll fry out after a period of time, so it'll be a waste of money. So I guess my roundabout question once again is, we know these issues. We've had this meeting several times. When are we going to get a bond for either the top 10 or for all the lights in the city of Hoyoke, or we're going to do the top 10 and steal some of the parts from there to then fix the other ones? Where are those reports? I filed that one as well.
They're in the process of being created.
In
We're working on them.
What time frame?
Another month to 6 weeks.
Because then we have winter coming in.
Right.
We really can't do a lot of work during winter.
Can you break it down and give me an idea how much will be for traffic lights or doing some of the sidewalks? And, I mean, do you have an idea how you're gonna divide it?
Out of the $4.5 million?
Yeah.
The plan was to do 1.25 in traffic signals, 1 million in sidewalks, 1.5 million with paving, 500 with micro sealing, and 250,000. That was 500,000 with micro sealing and 250,000 with crack sealing. But I think the way it's written, the traffic signals, the 1.25, probably wouldn't be enough to do the top 10.
Can you come back, in order for me to support it, I would like to see the traffic light completely separate. And I will
That's-
support, I mean, I.
Right, and that's what we kind of
Yeah,
talked
please.
about last time.
That's what was requested last time. So if there's another question here?
I have one more.
Joe, I'm sorry, Linda?
Real quick, Mike, what is micro sealing as opposed to crack sealing?
So crack sealing is the longitudinal stripes that you see on the roads.
Yep.
Micro sealing is where you do the crack sealing, and then you go over the entire road with a half-inch to a three-quarter-inch layer of asphalt,
It seals in the whole.
and it seals the entire road.
Is that what they did on County Road?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if you had
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
to do with that, but if you did, thank you for the solid lines. I don't know if it
I
was
don't-
you or Westfield or
I think it
Southampton.
was Southampton.
And just the other question is, on the traffic signals, I get the top 10, but we were talking a little bit the other evening. Are we having any luck with the state? Some of these are state roads, and I know they should qualify for state assistance, although,
So we do have one project in the queue for High and Maple Street with intersections.
that's 2 years out the
That's
last I
2
heard.
years out, right. We could use Chapter 90 for these intersections if we wanted to. But there's really nothing else that we have with the state.
You know, I think the committee knows, but we've met on a number of occasions with our state delegation and with people from the Mass DPW, is that what we say these days? Is it the Mass Department of Public Works or the Mass DOT? Department of Transportation. They'll change it next year. I can't keep up with it. And between bridges, roadways of the state, and things that should be managed by the state, and actually bridges have to be managed by the state, we're not even second fiddle. We're on the bottom of the list. And it's a shame to drive down Lyman Street to someone who's invested money in open square, to someone who's reinvested money in the warehouse, and see that bridge the way it is year in and year out. I've said it, I'll say it again, close the road. And tell the state we're closing the road till they fix it, because it makes no sense.
For that bridge, the state is in the process of finalizing their design.
That's what we heard last year, Mike.
Yeah.
We heard that before you sat in that chair, and
Yeah.
I hope we don't hear it when you
Our
leave that
taxes
chair, and
go
I hope that
quicker than
isn't
the
too
bridges
soon.
get fixed.
We did receive the 100% plans and specs in the mail a couple weeks ago.
Remind me, that's the next step.
Then
Once
what?
it's in final design, then it goes into the,
It goes 25, 75, 100%, and then final plans and specifications.
at least it's going forward. Face of a turtle, but, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to speak on the traffic lights, because I know there's the big issue in repairing the ones that are there, but there has been the one intersection where a light is warranted, where there is no light
Right.
on the top of Appermont and 202, and it's like a NASCAR race course out there. So if you're gonna get my vote, I want to see something happening in Ward 5 in the city, because it's lean or not to be seen. So,
See, Mr. Chairman, boss politics everywhere.
yeah, well, Ward 5 isn't very bossy.
So,
Trying to join the club.
no.
But I would just put in the plug for that, because it has been found to be warranted, and it's a real issue out there. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and I have difficulty supporting this the way it's set up too, and I do want to see these lights done, but I think maybe those be separated out, and I think the main thing we should look at is into the future, if we do take care of some of these lights, look at probably putting something aside. I know it's hard to do that, for the future because, these aren't gonna last forever. Other lights too that are gonna get bad and worse. It's something I think us as a city ought to look into because, this is costing a pretty penny right now, and what's gonna happen, 5, 10 years down the road where other signals are gonna be going on us. I think we have to make a better approach of, taking care of these things.
So with that, make a motion to deny this one, because we want it in a different bond form. So all's in favor? All's
Aye.
opposed? Joe?
I don't know, Mike, do you understand? We can't amend,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
okay. We wish we could. It would be a lot easier, but we have to actually have the auditor through the mayor resubmit it.
Next would be item 13. Make a motion to move from the table. All's in favor? All
Aye.
opposed? The sum of $350,000 be appropriated to pay for the City Hall stained glass window restoration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been a big supporter of this personally. I'm not a supporter, however, of this appropriation. I think this is a perfect project for the CPC committee. It's historic, it's preservation, it meets all of those criteria. I'd be very interested to see the work of that committee before we take general city funds in this regard.
Mike, and then we'll, if you have a question. Oh, okay.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that this was introduced before
It was.
the committee was there, and the intent of the $350,000 was to be a match to grants that the city would receive. The total bill was $700,000, so we were saying, let's go halfway, and we'll meet the rest with grants.
Okay, so make a motion to table. Do you want a copy? Do you want a copy? You want a copy, go to CPC, or what do you want to do? Or,
Oh, would that be,
or
I
do you
think
wanna
that might
do
be
it
the
that way, or
appropriate
no,
path.
or do you?
Yeah,
And we have submitted a Mass Historic Commission grant application for this. We also submitted, the Historic Commission, the city's Historic Commission submitted a grant for some consulting services for City Hall. So like the
for
peeling paint in
preservation.
here, preservation, City Hall preservation, and with records. We did receive that grant. It was for $15,000 for consulting services. It'll come before City Council to accept it. But we are trying to find other money outside of the city for the
So,
stained glass windows.
please
And-
don't take my comments in any negative way on it. I'm like a huge fan of
Yeah.
fixing these windows.
And the Friends of City Hall are still very active in trying to find ways to raise money specifically for the stained glass windows.
Right, so motion is to table, copy to CPC. Is that what you guys want, or?
Yeah.
That-
Second that.
Seconded. All's in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Number 14, make a motion to move from the table.
Second.
Or that hereby authorized to establish and maintain for fiscal year 2008 in accordance to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, 53E, 1/2, bicycle share revolving fund. Make a motion to table it. They called and said they'll
Thank you.
come back in to give more info on it.
Okay, so move, oh. The what?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. We have a bunch of vehicles coming in, don't we?
We've gotten some of the equipment. So we have the mini excavator, we have the, like a mini dozer, bulldozer type, a mini loader, I guess you could call it. And then we've started ordering the trash trucks, the recycling trucks, so we have gotten some equipment and we'll be using it soon.
Okay, Sandy, for you, one question that came up to the city council last meeting was, with the bonds that were approved and the outstanding bonds that are being paid back, where are we with regards to our bonding, in a sense of, we used to get reports that we're getting too close to the maximum, we've paid off some, we're at a distance now. Can we get a report on that? And
Yes, in fact, Tuesday I have a conference call with the auditor and Standard & Poor's to approve the bonds that we have had bans on and everything else. So I will have a report by then
Okay.
in regards to what it's going to be and how much it's going to, what the city has incurred in debt.
okay, because as we all know, the school department wants to come back at some point, maybe for middle schools, or, so knowing that, even though it's a reimbursement, there's still a hefty hit, so we need to have answers to that as well, in the sense of, if that were to come to fruition, what's the impact? We're still dealing with the building over here where they're housed out of. If we move them out, we're gonna need bonding to move them and put them in another building, or, as they still wanna say, maybe buy that building. We need to know our limits.
Right.
So that's, knowing those future, and especially with the lights, that being a big one.
Yeah,
Where can we go? What can we do? So,
When is the next city council meeting?
Tuesday.
This Tuesday?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have it for the next one because I won't
Okay.
have all the information.
I'll alert them to that.
But I'll have a service schedule for everybody.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
No problem.
So item 14 was to table, because they requested, they said they might not even need this anymore, but the representative that I spoke with, Pat Beaudry, said he would come into the next meeting. He was trying to get more information. So make a motion to table it for them.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Last is order that in accordance with Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accept the National Endowment for the Arts Grant. Is there anyone here for the National Endowment Arts Grant?
Only if they're a virtual person. Good night.
I think Marcos wanted this.
He said he was supposed to get a letter. I got an email from him, I thought. He was trying to get something to the Finance Committee for Thursday. I know he's away on vacation. Something with, I thought it was something, some kind of.
I don't think there was a match to it. That's why, I know there was a time constraint on this.
What's it for?
That's why
We don't even know?
Doesn't know.
I know there was a time constraint, and that's why I said throw it on the agenda, because we had to find it, because we know if it was actually received by us, but it was received on the June meeting.
I think he said something, he was away, he'll be back Tuesday.
I mean, we can always, I know we want information, I just know there was
You
a.
want to approve it pending? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
do it
looking
that
for?
way, simply because
Well-
I know there was a time issue with this. If we don't accept
If
it,
we
we
get
lose
it,
the
then we
money.
can do it. If we don't, we don't.
That's why I want to make sure
Yeah,
we're
I mean,
comfortable with that.
do we even know how much it is?
I think it was, I'm guessing, because there's been a couple other grants out there that are coming in that'll be on the agenda. I think this was like 100,000, I think. Pending,
Approve it pending
they come in and tell us. you
required
guys-
documentation or something like that?
Okay.
Well, right.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right,
So I want to make sure you guys are comfortable with that before, I don't
Okay,
want to.
If we put our stipulation, I'll
Alright.
make the motion that we approve it pending documentation of no match and that other proper documentation is provided for the fund. Does that work?
I'm writing it down, pending.
You tell me.
No, it's good. Pending documentation. Two. No matching. City. The third one, so documentation on the
match.
grant, no matching
And
funds.
proper documentation to establish the fund. I don't know what that requires, but probably something. Like how much it is, et cetera. Minor details.
Okay. So those were the conditions. Is there a second to that?
Second.
So all those in favor? All those
Aye.
opposed? There's nothing else on the agenda, so make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you very much.